hope that everybody here has been added to the WhatsApp group. If you haven't, I'm going to add in my number in the chat. And if you want to, if you're not in the WhatsApp group, just send me a message on WhatsApp.
We are making time for Black mental health and how to break stigma. Our Black community are living in a mental health crisis and we need your help.
So kicking off, as I said, the question is, why do we think Black mental health stigma exists? Who would like to kick off and give their discussion point?
Well, I think the stigma exists, and I think there's two main things that really influence the stigma. One being self-representation, and another one being how mental health is perceived in the Black community in terms of normative beliefs of what other people approve of one's behaviour and what other people think. And that really falls with self-representation, because that is something that you just want to hold on to, and it's always used as a way to define yourself in the context of other people. So I do really think those two things influence the existence of the stigma.
I think that's a really good point, because I don't know what it is with some of us in the Black community. I'm not saying all of us, but it's like sometimes, there's no food in the fridge or anything, and it's all about how we look and the shame of how we look, or competitively, or what people think. And this can be internalized as well, because if you don't look good, and in our community somebody else says, like, it's going to make you feel bad, you know what I mean? And you're not going to say. So that does have an influence as well.
And I agree with Millie. I think how we look, and it's hard. I think, just from everyone on this chat could agree, it's not easy being Black, like, period. Like, we carry the culture and trends and things of that nature. But like she said, we have a responsibility to look good and carry ourselves just within our own community. So when we go out into the world, we wouldn't want to add one more barrier to the list of obstacles that are already in front of us. We have so many things that are already against us, fighting out, and the climb is twice as hard for us, so to add one more obstacle is not something that we really want to look to do. And then representation, I think, is really important, because our counterparts, they have kind of a community that's already kind of set up. So within ourselves, to kind of go outside of our own community and culture to try to find solutions to problems with people who may not be able to relate to our lifestyle and our traditions and our upbringing and our history, it becomes that much more difficult. So I think that's why conversations like this are so important, so that we can allow people in our community to know that it's a shared experience and they're not alone. And then that will encourage them, I think, to come forward and feel more comfortable addressing, because the issues get addressed one way or another. Whether you address them yourselves or you experience the consequences of not addressing it and addressing your mental health. There's even the prison population, in large part, goes from childhood situations not being addressed as they grow. So many people that are in prison have mental health issues that have been unaddressed as they've been growing up, and just written off as behavior, poor behavior, bad attitudes, and things of that nature, where some kids really have unaddressed mental health issues that need to be helped and addressed and cultivated. And I think, and our counterparts, they're always, people are saying they need medicine, he's going through something, his parents, but in our experience, we don't really get that. So I think it's very important to encourage and, provide a caring and safe environment where we can have these discussions.
Over to Mark. Mark, if you unmute, what is your feelings on this discussion?
Well, hi, everyone. My feeling is, I'm happy that you're doing what you're doing, Bella. You're doing very good. We spoke over the week and stuff like that. So keep up the good work. The mental health side of things, as you say, with most parents, when you was a child, some parents can also bring that on to their kids, you know, all the beating we used to get, all the abuse, which we used to thought it was discipline. We used to all thought it was discipline. Your mama beat you, but some brutal beating. I'm not talking about the simple, like spank on the bottom sort of beating. So you get some real wire beating, clothesline beating, trees that send you to also get your own stick, which is going to beat you. So, you know, as you grow up, that can also change your mind in a lot of ways, mental health way. And growing up around in the Caribbean and coming to England, I see most of my friends, some of my friends now is quite in a bad way and end up in mental health through that reason. I also work with kids at the moment, actually trying to set up working with vulnerable kids which have mental health problem as well. And I see that in our community, we should actually try to be more aware of it and the way we treat our kids and where parents actually speak to their kids and explain to them instead of just beating them and shouting at them. I'm agree with everyone as well that we should try to do something more about it, try to be more awareness, try to get more people to be doing the work we're doing, and try to help a lot of people. That's what we have to try to do. So we're here today, hopefully that we should push forward and hopefully, Bella, we make something of today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your comment. And over to Lizelle. Yeah,
I was going to say that actually maybe if we had sort of more community psychologists, that might help to improve the mental health state of our community. If we had people that were conducting research and actually looking at things, like a lot of it is cultural, and maybe we've got a kind of a closed-minded attitude in some ways about it. I think in some ways as well, society tells us what's acceptable to speak about and what's not. And actually, because mental health, particularly because of COVID, has been a lot on people's minds. Also, as well, if you don't see anyone who looks like you, just like within teaching, you're less likely to come across them and sort of speak to them or think that actually you can do that or be that. So I think maybe we need to sort of identify some strategies that can actually help elevate the community in that way. And one way is having more therapists and having more community psychologists to sort of address those issues, and actually making sure that there are those safe spaces where people can come forward. I think we're quick to tell people what they're doing wrong and not to congratulate them for coming to get help.
So one of the reasons I wanted to bring Marcus as a speaker from New York is to also speak to him and to find out, well, what is it like in New York? Our New York Black community going through exactly what we're going through or something similar?
Being Black in America is stressful in itself, you know. A lot of police killings. If anybody needs therapy, it should be us. You know, PTSD is rampant. I mean, we are the children of the middle passage, you know, so that kind of tension is current, is always present, is always current. So I think, and I applaud Bella first and foremost for just being so transparent and just leading, not being afraid to lead by example in her experience and sharing some of the benefits that she's gone through as she's accepted this transformation. I mean, I know Bella from networking, right? The networking guru, and she traveled all the way over here, was able to meet me in New York City and do business. And I watched her deal with other people, and to think that throughout that entire time, she had her own personal struggles. I think that's something that we don't give enough credit to people from our culture and what we may be dealing with. So, and as a person myself who has, I think we've all experienced our own set of trauma, I've benefited from the virtue and value of going to see a therapist. It's just being able to kind of speak my experience has really helped me have a better understanding of who I was and who I am. And I try my best to push that out to everyone within our community. But I think Leslie had just the best point in terms of it's important that we seek representation. Like, I'm a huge proponent of like Black doctors. Like, I believe Black people should go to Black doctors, like at all costs, because I believe that, you know, someone who understands our pain threshold, knows that we're not exaggerating, knows that, you know, they can relate to us. I think that goes a long way.
In New York, if you have a health crisis or you're just going to your physician or GP, can you request if you want to see a Black black doctor or a health professional? Are you allowed to do that?
Yes. Well, so through our insurance, most of the time you have a list of preferred service providers, and then you'll be able to look, kind of shift through the list to find a potential. I mean, when I was seeking a therapist, it wasn't easy to find a black therapist. To Leslie's credit, you know, I had to deal with one therapist, and then I had another therapist on the side. And the first therapist thought I was cheating on him, and he said, "I see why you have some relationship problems."
You're saying you have a list, you can choose who you would like to treat you.
I mean, they can assign you. You'll be assigned one. If you don't pick, you know, you just go and whoever the doctor is. But if you take the time to shift through the list through your insurance provider, you can definitely find black physicians, black therapists, black pediatricians, black dentists. You know, I mean, you might have to look a little bit, but you can find it. And I think it's like very important for our experience culturally to deal with doctors and people in the medical fields that can relate to our experience. You know, in America, one thing that they say a lot, they say that how the police treat black men is how doctors treat black women. You know what I mean? Like believing as a constant attack on their health, and they believe that they're exaggerating when they talk about their health issues and complaints. The rate of hospitalization or even the mortality rate when pregnancies and things of that nature is a huge disparity between black and white people within our own American culture, society. So one of the ways that I try to address that is to find representation in that field. And
sure.
As it pertains to mental health, you know, it's even more difficult, you know, and I don't think everyone has the courage or bravery, such as yourself, to be as transparent. So I really, really applaud you for taking steps in that direction.
Thank you. And what are the feelings and cultural views in New York? For example, if you're with friends or colleagues and somebody's going through something, or, you know, what's their response in your community? Are they open or do they discriminate? Like, what are the conversations right now in New York with black mental health?
That is such a good question. I think one benefit from the pandemic was that it gave us a shared experience, right? Everyone kind of has a shared, we all had to spend this time and kind of go through this experience. So everyone is kind of coming out of it with a deeper understanding of self. So it seems, just in my initial impressions, that it's more acceptable. I have friends who we have conversations, and through my experience of, you know, maybe me leading out and saying, hey, you know, there were things that I struggle with. I have a very extreme personality, you know, so, you know, even, you know, I've seen therapists and talked about bipolar issues and things of that nature. My personality is very extreme. So, you know, and my friends, they're like, hey, you know, you don't only live a crazy lifestyle. Maybe you should, you know, talk to somebody. And in talking to people, I've discovered more about myself and the things that I may not have been aware of how I manage it, whether that's, you know, recreational activities, athletic exercise. We're all kind of doing things to temper our mental health without really being conscious of that. Whether that's you get up early in the morning and you have a strict routine you follow, or you get up and you go exercise, you know, you are doing things to try to kind of keep a grip of your own mental health. So I think having conversations like this allow us to look at it from a more conscious standpoint and realize that we're not alone. You know, when Evan spoke about it, it's not, even when I'm dealing with entrepreneurs and people that want to start their own business, I have to encourage them, because there's some beauty in starting your own business and being an entrepreneur. As you know, we have kind of like the free spirit kind of, you know, I'm in control of my time kind of resource thing, but that's not always the best thing. And until you have a grip of yourself and control, then sometimes it's not always easy to master your environment outside of you. So I think discussions like this are necessary.
Stressful. It can be quite stressful running a business, and you can feel very alone. And I think in any job role that we do, there will be pressures and expectations how to perform. And sometimes if you don't have that support network, it can feel extremely alone. Dunstan, would you like to contribute and say something?
Hi, hello, good evening, everyone. Hi.
Hello, Dunstan.
I just want to add my 2 pence worth to the whole topic.
Yes, please.
I think that the questions around mental health, and particularly in the Black community, I think it's only recently, to my mind, that mental health has become a sort of thing to be talked about in the host community, let alone the Black community. And I think we need to take that into consideration. I think when I was young, things like mental health had a really, really bad label, and people looked as mental people as, you know, really sick people, and it wasn't a positive thing, a positive conversation to be had. And it's only now, in my mind, the last couple of years, people are talking more positively about mental health and looking after your mental health and all the different components of mental health. And I think we need to take that into consideration, that it's a relatively new sort of thing that we're doing in terms of talking and discussing it and looking at different aspects of it. Someone earlier on spoke about exercise and different things like that. And I think prior to the last couple of years or so, we haven't really looked holistically at all the things that make up positive mental health. And so I think we need to be a bit more sort of, mindful that it's quite a new thing, and it's only now that we're all collectively starting to talk about all those components that make up mental health. So it's going to be a slow thing. It's not going to be an instant thing. And it's not everyone who's buying into it in that context. And it's going to take a little bit of time, I think. And I think the more conversations we have like this and with our friends, I think especially as men having conversations with each other, no disrespect to the women, it's always good to have conversations with women, but I think men on a whole need to start talking a lot more to each other, because they're men and women are so different in that context, and the struggles men face collectively, they need to talk to each other about it, because they've got a special understanding of what they're going through, and they need to be sharing that with men who are experiencing a similar thing, in my opinion, and start having conversations around that and building networks like that and having more serious, open and honest conversations to share their experiences and their strategies for having positive mental health and how they deal with certain situations and that kind of thing. And that's the gist of what I want to say, really.
We've got this terminology about Black must be strong. Be a strong Black man, be a strong Black woman. And it almost has this connotation like we don't feel pain, or we're not allowed to feel pain. And I don't know if this has come from the generation abuse from slavery. You know, we don't feel pain. And I think in our Black community as well, if we talk about we're struggling with mental health, sometimes it's looked at, well, that's such a small thing. It shouldn't bother you. You shouldn't feel that way. And I think that also can hinder another person, because if they start to have any mental health issues, then they're going to think I'm not strong and feel really uncomfortable or ashamed to say that they're not strong.
Our culture, I think in our culture, from everything that we've survived, it's already almost inherent, right? That we have to be strong. It's like something that's already passed down to us, right? I mean, just in the mail, I run a fatherhood group in New York as well, called Bronx Fathers Taking Action. I'm part of New York City Dad group. And one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about just my role as a father is to, like, I'm sensitive. So I like to share that side. You know, I share that side with my daughters, especially. And I try to encourage men also to share that side with their children, sons especially, because holding things back, it only causes you to build it up. And then sometimes that built up stress and anguish and anger, you're laying it out. You're letting it go on people who don't deserve it, you know? So, you know, that feeling of being strong and not having the space where you could express yourself, it only leads up to a pent up bigger problem. So I'm really, really big on like expression, both good and bad. I hang up the phone with my uncles. I say, I love you, you know, and I make them say it back. Even with my friends, you know, I try my best to like open up that sides of them to say, hey man, we don't always have to be, that tough exterior. And I think you see it in this generation coming up. I mean, you guys in the UK, y'all listen to Drake, I'm sure. It's very emotional. This generation after us, they're very sensitive, and they're expressing themselves. So I think it's really important that we try to remove those stigmas of forcing people to be strong. And I think really we need to define what strength is. Strength is not holding things back all the time. Strength sometimes is just being expressive, not being afraid. I think, Bella, what you're doing is very strong. That's a very strong thing, to be transparent in that way. That takes bravery and courage. And I think if we can encourage that amongst our, my own generation, the generation before us, they're a little bit stuck in their ways. But, for the future generations, if we could pass them down that fruit from our experience, that seed, so to speak, I think we would have a better generation of people that we're operating with.
Oh my goodness, what a session we're having tonight. It's amazing things that are coming out. I mean, look at what everybody is saying. I don't know how to describe it. One thing I want to add is that why do we have to be strong? And you will see that these words is just permeating through the adults, descending down to the children. Okay? So many a time we say, I need to be strong. Be strong of what? To survive, because of all the negative connotations that reign upon our lives. We need to be strong in order to survive through the system. Everywhere, America, Europe, name it, everywhere. It's like we need to have strength to absorb some of these negativities that come our way. But can you imagine if it had not been this, and we let all these things go, free our minds, we also walk like any other person, because we wouldn't have a lot of these mental health issues, because we will also be free. We will be free. I remember where I am, for instance, when I was coming here, I was told that this is a pure white community. How are your children going to survive in schools? So it's like you go into a school where almost everybody is white, you are the only black, you got to be strong. Some people will insult you, some people will rain all sorts of things upon you, so you got to be strong in order to absorb all these. Society has not been fair to us. As if we chose to be black. I always tell people, I didn't choose to be black, I just got lucky. I've been so lucky to be black. I didn't choose it, but I'm lucky. The thing is that is what it is. And we need to free our minds. If we want to continue to think about some of these things, we will carry a whole lot of loads that will lead us into some of these mental problems. Because you go into school, you're thinking about how I'm going to survive. You go into a white community, how I'm going to survive. You want to open a business, then you want to look at how am I going to break through in this white-dominated community. I remember last 2 years, I visited a country and I was chatting with a friend and was telling me, here, the system determines what you have to do. If you have a child and you are black, you can't say, I want to go and read medicine at the university. I want to go and become an accountant. No. And I'm talking about Holland, just like Netherlands. The teachers determine what you have to do. So they will look through your face and they will tell you, no, medicine is for the white people. You are black, you have to go and do this course. You have war. And I was telling them, this cannot happen in the UK. You choose what you want to do. Sometimes when I'm invited to go and talk to a group of people who are all white, and you see this black tiny boy talking to them, you're going to be intimidated. But we all need to free our minds. We have to empty those things. When we make the attempt to empty those loads, we will also be free. If not, we'll be carrying a lot of loads. I know it's not easy. It's not going to be easy at all. But let's make the frantic effort to empty a lot of things off our minds and live like any other normal person in a society. And tell yourself, if a white man has done it, I can do it as well.
Just off the back of that, I think, you know, a lot is spoken about sort of like white privilege, but actually there's a mental health privilege as well that goes on in the country.
I like that one, mental health privilege.
This idea of, like, you can be privileged enough to say, if you've got mental health, be given all the access, be given all the treatment, and yet that privilege is not accessed for people of colour. So, I mean, just off the back of that is why I guess our parents, people before us, tell us to be strong. I'm not saying that's right, though, but because they are aware that there is a certain level of privilege of what you can access and what you can't, particularly in the NHS. So, I mean, I think someone just mentioned on the talk as well, you know, realising that we have to work twice as hard. Well, actually, I don't tell my kids that. I say that they need to work hard and they need to be diligent because they need to do their best. But having to work twice as hard as white people, I actually don't want that to be in their mindset, because then that's already setting them up for a level of actually the odds are stacked against me. And that's like a level of tension that actually I don't think my children need. So, I mean, that's where the disparity is. So we're kind of like forced in a system to access help from people that actually don't really want to help us. And actually, time and time again, clients have come back to me and said, oh yeah, they referred me for CBT, and you know, I didn't really think that was helpful because it was more about my behavior, because I've got all this other stuff going on there that they just couldn't understand, and they didn't look like me, and they didn't really understand what I was saying. I kept having to repeat it, and that's one thing that can be quite annoying as well. I was just thinking about Steve McQueen. I don't know if anybody knows his work, but he did something about education. So while I really applaud what the other speaker was saying before, that privilege is in our educational system. And it's one thing saying, all right, you can get up and you can be a doctor. Yeah, of course you can. It's not streamlined like the Netherlands and Holland, like you're saying. But still, there is a disparity on where you're allowed to go. So just off the back of that, when I went to art school in 1999, I was one of 5 Black students. And that's 1999 out of 250. So whilst I was there, I was still given signifiers, visual messages, not even words verbally, that actually I shouldn't be there because that's for a certain type of person and that's for those people. So while we say that, yes, you can, but for me to take myself through that process of art school to graduate and do extremely well, there was a level of resilience that actually, as Black people, we sort of need to embody to navigate, because there's many people that don't get that option, and there's many white papers and things that have been written. So Steve McQueen directed something that was on BBC called Education, and it was actually about Haringey and how there were certain obstacles put in place so Black children did not progress in a particular way. So, I mean, even in working in education now, that's one of the reasons I stay, is that actually you still need to have eyes and ears on the ground, helping, interceding in that particular way.
Thank
so
you.
I
So
still don't think it's that easy.
Yeah, there's so many different ways that combine and make part of the parcel to why there's stigma, generational, current, racial tensions, and a lot of these stigmas that we are suffering within our community, they are international as well. We need more role models in our community, okay? So I recently did some work with Bipolar UK, and they asked me to do like an article, and I really dug deep. And what's really apparent is all of us know the movie star, everybody knows Denzel, right? Even if you don't like Cardi B, you know who Cardi B is, right? So then I ask you, who is a role model or a speaker like Tony Robbins, who proudly talks about, I've got mental health and this is how I'm living? we have no role models. I don't know if anybody else knows of any other role models.
I was going to say one person, but I don't think it got out as much as it could. But the only person I can think of was the lady that was in Black Panther. I think she came out and said that she had mental health.
Do you know her name?
I can't remember. I think it's Letitia, right?
Right.
I think she came out and said she had some really mental health problems when she was in acting school, and she went to a group. What Lascelles was saying, a organisation for Black actors or something,
right?
And that really helped her in her career.
Okay, right.
But this wasn't. It was only on a small platform. She said it wasn't picked up on and made into like this big, campaign for bipolar or anything like that. She didn't really talk about what the mental health issue was. But she just said she was going through many things, and she stayed like away from people. She didn't speak to anyone for a good number of years. But she's the only one I can think of.
So we can agree there. Like, we've struggled to even use one or two of our fingers. Right. We've got 10 fingers, and we've actually struggled collectively to say we know someone, or like an Oprah Winfrey or Tony Robbins, or a great actor or musician who talks about it. Marcus, did you want to add something there?
Well, in the States here, American football, right? American football.
Oh, okay.
You find some football players coming up. I mean, and I think just because of the way that the game is played, there's incumbent issues that come with it. Like, just you hit your head a lot. So they're coming out, Brandon Marshall and other football players have said, that they've struggled with mental health issues, or even there's a case of like Aaron Hernandez, who actually was a football player who did negative things, but they eventually realized that maybe coming up he had unaddressed mental problems that they didn't. Or even Kanye West all the time said that he struggles with his being bipolar, and he struggles and he has to do certain things to try to like temper his behavior. And his handlers also say that they try to do different things to give him a safe space to express themselves. So I think like you said, role models and people who show some success and show that you could be successful through it will go a long way. I think even my man from Tesla, my man that owns Tesla, he says he has Asperger's, and that's a mental health thing, and he said that he's been able to be successful even through it. It's helped him see the world a little bit more organized. So Elon Musk says that he has Asperger's, and he's been able to be successful and still create things, and he's used it to help him be more organized in that way.
We need to use our voice more, definitely, and we need more education and awareness about what mental health is. But not only what mental health is that if you feel you have certain symptoms, or what is anxiety, depression, or trauma, PTSD, there's a long list. There's 101 different mental health illnesses. It's actually being more educated and letting us know what is these types of mental health symptoms and how you can get help. We in our community as well need to have that access where it's to our cultural basis, that we have that opportunity to go to a Black therapist, and not only go to a Black therapist, that we need to have the resources that if we do seek help, for example, in the NHS or via insurance in the US, that if we're not happy with the service that we're getting, that we should know that we've got the confidence to make a complaint, or say, I went to the doctor and I felt like the service wasn't good enough.
I was just thinking, also, a lot of people don't realize there's a system which the police does use now, that if you're actually arguing with the police and when they throw you down on the floor and stuff and you get very irate, they're now transferring you to places which like Moseley Hospital, stuff like that, and where you are actually getting very bad-tempered and you're losing it because you know that you're in your rights. They're injecting you. Before you know it, you end up with a kind of issue as well, because I've seen a few things happen in the past and I heard a few stories myself. And what they were doing, they were arresting people, and instead of taking them to the police station, they would take them to a holding place where they would take people with mental health. And then what we do, before you know it, and as a black man, you're going to be high rated, you're going to be losing your temper, you're going to be doing things which, you know what I mean, throwing things, trying to get out of this place. And instead, they end up injecting some of them, and some of them actually end up having mental issue coming out back out.
I just want to agree to that point that you're making. And even in New York, they recently signed in a new law over a young man named Khalif Browder. And Khalif Browder went through the prison system. He was detained. He didn't get a chance to see, you know, in the New York, in America, the way the criminal justice system is, if you're arrested and you can't make your bail, you just have to stay in, right? You just have to stay in. So he wasn't able, he was accused of stealing a book bag, he didn't do. And then he was detained and he wasn't able to be arraigned, which is basically see a judge so you could leave. They kept him in there for so long that he became mentally, like, you know, distressed, and the pressure of being in Rikers Island led to his untimely suicide. And as a result, we recently signed in a law to try to prevent young men who are detained, to make sure that they at least get a timely arrangement. Because once you're behind, once you're arrested, once you're in the system, so to speak, you are now met with entirely new pressures that may take a person who is already on the edge and kind of push them over. So I think that was an excellent point, Mark. And, you know, in America, this criminal justice system puts pressure on the black man. And you can see traffic stops, and you see how many times we're actually getting killed just dealing with the police. And then the PTSD that occurs from us watching that, right? From it being aired on the news, from us seeing it in social media, and then seeing that justice is not prevailing in these systems, right? Not giving us a sense of hope that these wrongs are going to be addressed. I mean, even just now in America, we just found that Ahmaud Arbery, who was killed by two people trying to make a citizen's arrest because they accused him of stealing something. His trial, the justice was being upheld by a county clerk who refused to process the right paperwork, right? So that justice is now stalled. This racism is like a part of the American social justice system. That's something that we're fighting all the time. So I think Mark and Bella, I think you bring up excellent point about that PTSD, that trauma, and, you know, our inability to address it face up, and then what it causes on the everyday person as we try to deal with that, coupled with our regular responsibilities of life.
Absolutely. Eben, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, just a quick one. Fantastic. Thank you, Mark and Mr. Payne, if I got the name correct. Yeah, saying so many good stuff. Now, what I want to add is that we have been prejudiced, so long. And the black person is being seen always as aggressive. Even when you want to tone down to any kind of level, the moment they see you are black, you are aggressive. Meanwhile, you know, the person might even be going through some mental issues just like any other white or any other person. But the moment you are black, they think you are too aggressive. By nature, you are this and you are that. So they arrest you, they take you to detention. Why? Because they think you are black. So I would just suggest that, look, you've started a very, very good thing. And this thing has to be continued. This thing has to be enlarged and progress. We continue to educate people. We continue to let them know that, look, this is not what you think we are. We are not the way you think we are. If you look at America, they arrest somebody, they think, oh, he's a black person, he's being aggressive. He wasn't, or he's not. In the UK, it's the same thing. You know, some people are inherently racist. So the moment they see a black person, attitude, everything changes. But the question is that, how can we let them know that we are not the people that you think we are? We need to educate ourselves.
Absolutely.
And I'm just praying that This thing that you started, it might seem like something in a very small way, but it can progress to be a big thing. It can progress. Can you imagine if we got 50, 100 people taking part in this? And the education is just going far. People need to be educated to know that the fact that one person is behaving in a certain way doesn't mean that every black person behaving the same way. Number one. Number two,
Absolutely.
you need to find out why the person is behaving that way. There has to be a reason. There has to be a reason, you know. But many a time they don't do it that way. They just put everything together and they say, oh, these are the way they are. No. Why are you prejudicing everything? It's so wrong. So I would say that please, it must start in a very small way, but let's continue to talk to people. Let's educate them. Let them know that it is about time we also let people know that we are not the way they think we are. And I think it will help with our community. Thank you.
Brilliant.
But I remember when I was talking to a counselor, and she was talking, I was telling her how I was feeling and what was at the point, what the traumatization and what it has actually done to me. And I can remember she was trying to refer me to a Moseley hospital. She said, this is what she actually said to me, because I was on medication. I can remember I was on phenatone and a few drugs that make you kind of sleep and stuff like that. And she said to me, what we're going to do, we're going to refer you to a place of rest. So I wasn't thinking of Jamaica. I was thinking of somewhere, a nice hotel somewhere away from. And she said, we're going to refer you to Moseley Hospital. The only reason why I never end up in Moseley Hospital, because when we were younger as kids, we used to make a joke and said, oh, your friend just came out of Moseley sort of thing. You know what I mean?
Oh,
you know,
yeah. If you're from South London, that was the lingo,
that was one of
wasn't
our
it?
thing, you know? It used to be like, oh, this is my friend Tony, he just came from Moseley, and the girl will probably look and go, okay. But it used to be
He
like,
ain't getting a date. He ain't getting a
joke
date.
because he was younger, yeah. So it's because of that reason, knowing that joke is what actually stopped me from saying yes and signing that paper to go and get some actually somewhere. I thought it was like a retreat or something to get a bit of rest, because I was very traumatized because I was stabbed 7 times. And I'm surprised to even be here today. And they tried to put me on quite a few medication, which was really actually creating more problem than the problem caused. So what I decided to do, I stopped taking my medication secretly, and I did not tell the doctor, and I would still go for my prescription as usual. And while I was doing that, I was getting better and better. And then he turned around and said to me, we're going to up your dosage. You're doing very well. So that's when I slightly got upset and tell the doctor, I haven't been taking your medicine. And that was it, basically. So, yeah, so you have to be, as you're saying. And also I had a friend who actually came to my house and she was stressed because at the time I was injured. She came to see me to talk to me, but I was too under medication, and she apparently took an overdose. I won't call her name. And she went to Central Croydon, and I told her I would talk to her when I wake up. And she decided to leave and go to Central Croydon and fell down, and she literally took an overdose. So she almost died. Instead of taking care of her, they bring her to the Moseley Hospital. When I was aware of this, I went to visit her. And I remember when she came in and she ran to hug me, and these big guys literally jumped on her. And I was so angry, I actually went into a different mode and I started throwing these guys from left to right, because I'm saying, what are you doing? Why are you taking 5 to 6 guys to hold on one person? Like, you know what I mean? She just wanted to come to talk to me. Why are you doing this? And within about, I think I make a complaint and a few reports, and about a month later, they released her. And, you know, I mean, she's doing quite well now. She's married, she got kids, and she's doing pretty well now. So I'm kind of happy for that. I'll let you carry on, sorry.
No, it's so important that, you know, we have these conversations so we know what exactly is happening and what our rights are as well. Because in New York, where you have to pay for your mental health, means there's a little bit more of a quality service, because if you're not happy, they know they've got more regulations and a complaint can be made. So guys, I am going to wrap up the Zoom session and hope that everybody here has been added to the WhatsApp group. If you haven't, I'm going to add in my number in the chat. And if you want to, if you're not in the WhatsApp group, just send me a message on WhatsApp. And I want to say thank you to everybody that came. This was very much an informal session. I want to hear your views so that we make a change, because this is where the magic happens. We as a community, we got different experiences, we've got different ideas. So by bringing them together, making a bit of cake, add a bit of milk, a bit more eggs, we can make a wonderful cake of change. So,
yeah, Bella, I was just saying to you, I was about to say about Pain Already Taken. I was saying that you're doing a very good job, and you know, if you do need my support, we always talk already as it is. You know, you can always call me, and you know, I'm always there for the advice, you know. So let's keep up the good work, and I'll try my very best to support you as much as I can.
Thank you so much, Mark. I really appreciate that. All suggestions are welcome, and together collectively we can make a change. It may not happen overnight because the cake don't bake sometimes too right. It might come out flat, need a bit of eggs, but I think together we can get there. All right. So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. And thank you to our transatlantic guests as well.
Thank you.
All right then. Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Bye. Bye.
Enjoy yourself, everyone.
Bye,
Be
guys.
safe.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Nice to meet you all.
Your voice counts. Would you like to be part of our October 2021 Zoom panel event sponsored by Royal Kensington and Chelsea Borough? Our event date will be held on Wednesday, the 27th of October. Visit Bella Rareworld Bipolar.com, or you can also send us a WhatsApp.